Hi everyone. I'm Jonathan Rockler and I'm Senior Solution Engineer at JFrog. With this position, I have the privilege and the benefit to be in contact with a lot of customers, enterprise customers in EMEA area. And you will see why it's important for this talk. It's because I'm in contact with all those customers, and I have a kind of privileged relationship with them that I was able to gather some general information on how the DevOps approach can be done in a large-scale enterprise. So for today, the agenda is the following. I will start with a quick introduction about JFrog and where we are in this DevOps landscape. We are working with our customers. Then I will talk about DevOps and with a quick reminder why we are talking about DevOps today, where it come from. Then I will elaborate more on scaling a DevOps as a service approach in enterprise, in a real enterprise with thousands of people, of employees and projects. I will talk also about the importance of measure and feedback in a DevOps toolchain and a DevOps culture. And last but not least, I would like to emphasize on what I call a change of mind from a top-down to bottom-up approach. And as Catherine said before, at the end, I will try to take all your questions that you can ask in the question chat box, and I will try to answer all those questions. A quick disclaimer, as same as in movies. So all this talk is based on real life experience, real customers, real enterprise, and real practice. So it's not something only coming from readings or from what I have in my mind. It's really what we observe with our customers. And if we're able to observe such kind of thing with our customers, it's because, first of all, JFrog, for people who don't know JFrog, is a software company building software for building software. We believe that software accelerates building software, and we are in the DevOps landscape. We are working with more than 4,000 customers, and we have a lot of different kind of customers. We have customers that are well known in the DevOps landscape, such as Netflix, Google, and so on, and other big companies that are or were not known as DevOps or IT experts, but more for retail, as retail company like Bosch, or airplane company like in the industrial company like Airbus, Siemens, and so on. And this is really from where we are gathering all this information, or we are able to see the movement on the market and in the industry. Our solution at JFrog really quickly is based on 4 different products at the moment. The most known one is our flagship Artifactory, which is a universal repository manager. Which means that Artifactory can be connected in the development phase to dependency manager tools with a universal approach, which means that teams working with Java, with .NET, Docker, NPM, and so on, can connect and use Artifactory. We have strong integration with most of CI servers on the market, and also we are integrating provisioning tools such as Chef, Puppet, container technologies such as Docker, or even background boxes can be hosted in Artifactory. And the main idea is that Artifactory within a DevOps toolchain is connected to almost every tool within the tool chain. And this is mainly why we can talk about this DevOps approach, because in our meetings with customers, we are talking about cases that they're trying to set up in their company. So it's a well-known process. What most of people don't know is that this diagram is coming from a postdoc paper written by Winston Royce in the 1970s. And in this paper, he exposes this concept of the since famous waterfall process. What most of people don't know is that in the same paper, 4 pages later, he then gives the second diagram that you see on the left side of this slide, and saying that if he believes in the concept shown in the first diagram, the implementation is risky and invites failure. And he elaborates on the fact that with the first diagram, you don't have any feedback on what you are doing until the testing phase. And so if you have any error, any bug, any issue in your development, in the feature you are implementing, you won't realize it until the testing and before going to production, which is too late and imply a lot of cost to find the issue, to fix it, etc. Unfortunately, when he published this paper, it was in the same time that the Department of Defense wanted to promote a standard unified process for their internal working and also for their external contractor. They found the paper, they read the first page with the first diagram, which was was very simple to understand. And so they said to all their contractors, now you have to follow this process. And here is the waterfall process. They realized their mistake after a few years, but it was too late. Almost all software companies in the world were already implementing the waterfall process. So waterfall model is born and becomes the standard that all organizations must comply in order to work with US defense, but with other big companies. We realized really quickly the mistake, in particular within projects. And so in order to solve this issue, to have too late feedback, some new ideas came. And the most popular one was Agile, which introduced a number of new concepts and ideas based on a loop vision. So in an Agile way, you will shorten your release cycles in order to have faster feedback and iteration. So the main idea is to have, so if you look at the Scrum approach, you have short sprints, and the main idea is that after every 3 weeks or 4 weeks of sprints, you will test everything, check for any issue, and capitalize on what you did in order to then iterate on new features and improvements. But if it helps a lot building better software that suits the user needs, it did not solve the dev to ops main issue, which is that the development and operational have different goals for the development team. And moreover, when you are working in Agile way, your main goal is to deliver fast new features for the customer. And for the operational team, most of the time, the main goal is to have something stable and reliable. And so you can be very conservative when you are on operational side, because you don't want to introduce mistakes, error. And so you prefer to not have 10 releases a day or even 1 release a week, but to have something with a slow-paced development, a slow-paced release to be able to be sure about what you are sending to production. And this is where the DevOps came in order to solve this issue, this particular issue. And so the main idea with DevOps is to transform teams into a single team. And so we used to say DevOps, but it's also Dev QA Ops and even DevSec QA Ops to also bring QA people, security people in a single team with a shared goal and a same way to work all together for the same purpose. In 2016, RightScale did this poll about the expectation about DevOps. So I won't elaborate on the left side, which is about DevOps adoption. And it's okay, we know today that DevOps has been adopted in many companies, or at least many companies are looking for a DevOps approach. But what is interesting is, for me today, is the trigger of the DevOps transformation in enterprise. This is what you can see on the right side of the slide. Here, what we can see is that the two main factors for looking for DevOps are faster cycle times and faster realization of business value. So really fast, to summarize. But the third one is important also, improved release success rates. This is about quality. Quality in terms of less bugs, less errors, but also quality on delivering something that fits the customer needs, that fits the end user needs. So now we are all convinced we want to implement DevOps in our company. And if we look for startups, well, for successful startups who did it in the past, it's pretty simple in a startup. So first of all, when you are in a startup, most of the time you have one or maybe few projects to deal with. And most of the time you have only a few people in your teams. Sometimes it's even one people doing development, QA, and operational tasks. So it's pretty simple to have only a single guy working with himself. Or when you have two people working in the same room, it's pretty simple when there is an issue to make all people working together on the same goal, on the same objective. So basically, establish a DevOps culture and a DevOps approach in a startup, in a very small company. It's easy. You just have to read some books, perform some Google search, and apply what you found. Everyone is part of the whole process. Everyone is implementing it, and it's very easy. The only effort you have is to have some rigor, to automate things, and to establish a common culture within your company, within your startup, and to respect this common culture. In a big startup such as Netflix, it's still quite easy to do. So, for example, Netflix strategy was pretty simple at the beginning. They wanted to implement DevOps. What they did is simply to hire people everywhere in the world that will be able to lead this approach within their company. So it's pretty easy when you start from nothing. You don't have legacy, you don't have existing teams. You can recruit almost everyone on earth and find almost any kind of profile. Now in existing enterprise, it's a change of scale. First of all, you have hundreds and thousands of projects and teams. And all of these teams and projects are different. You need to support both the legacy, for example, projects written in COBOL, or in C, hosted on ClearCase, and hipster digital projects working on Kotlin or Go or Rust or whatever, deploying on Kubernetes, or you can imagine any new technology you see in conferences. And you have to provide solution. You have to have an approach that will work for all those projects. Also, priorities in all those projects are different. When you are in a big company like Airbus, you might have mobile application where you need fast release, because by definition, a mobile application needs to be released fast. You cannot have existing bug on the marketplace, because with a few downvotes, nobody will download anymore your application. So if you have a bug, you have to be able to fix it in an hour or within a day. Now, if you look at embedded software for airplane, for example, you don't care to be able to release every hour or even every week. What you want to do is to have release that are qualified, fully tested, and that are known, stable and reliable, and so that can be pushed to production for the next 5, 10, 20 years. Also, in big companies, you have distributed teams in terms of geography. So you have different time zones, which is not easy to have fast communication. You have distributed technology. Once again, people working on C, C++, people working on Docker. You have difference of culture, of knowledge, etc. And you have to have a global approach that will fit for everyone. And last but not least, you have to remember that in a big company, you are in a complex system. And there is one rule coming from chaos theory and complex system from Mr. Poincaré, the mathematician, is that complex systems always give unpredictable behaviors. Once you know that, you have to understand that you will never be able to predict all behaviors in complex systems. By definition, it's impossible. But what you have to do is to implement a system that will react in the best way for unpredictable behaviors. This is basically the main concept behind Chaos Monkeys that they did at Netflix. At Netflix, they found we cannot predict every case. So what we will do is to simulate chaos within our infrastructure and see how our system is reacting to this chaos. So once you have this in mind, you can have a first naive approach, which is to say, okay, building a DevOps approach in a startup is easy. It's too much complex in my company, so I will divide and conquer. And what I'm going to do is to isolate each project within my company, building only small teams that are fully autonomous, managing end-to-end responsibility from development to production, and even why not on R&D and on the support, including marketing, sales, all the position and roles you need for a project from end to end. And so with that, you can build a kind of DevOps approach with isolation, independence between the team, and break the complexity of your company. As you can guess, squad mean a lot of duplication across projects, and Spotify came with a more modern approach in 2012. So this approach is based on tribes, where a tribe is a set of related squads working on projects in the same tech environment. There are some cross-entities, guilds, chapters, etc., in order to capitalize on concern, technologies, etc. And so at this point, you have a kind of independence. So you move from complexity to simplicity. You have more responsibility. Each project is responsible of their entire flow from dev to prod, and it's kind of agile. But the main issue here is it does not solve the technical issue. It's only team management. We are focusing only on team management here. So what about tools and environments? Here is a screenshot shared by ING Bank. And their first assumption was on their building the kind of DevOps as a service team. So at ING Bank, it's called CDIS for continuous delivery as a service. And so the first assumption they had was, okay, we will enable DevOps team per project, and each team will be responsible of the entire flow, the entire tool chain from dev to end user, to production. But they realized really fast, in fact, that it implies a maintenance of a duplication of tasks. Each team has to maintain their own tools, which takes time. Also, this can reach to a little or worse no knowledge sharing, because as each team is independent, each team is working on their own tool, on their own platform, with their own process, and even worse, with their own vocabulary, you will break the enterprise knowledge sharing. And it will be harder. Imagine if you are on a project, on a 6-month project or 1-year project in a team, and your project finished, you have to move to a different project within the same company, but they are using totally different tools, process, vocabulary, etc. Your learning curve will be higher than if you have some common practices. And at the end, when you have this kind of approach, it has a cost, but moreover, you will repeat mistakes and you will have non-reproducible success, which is very bad. So what they did at CDS, so for ING Bank, they started to have a more shared pipeline approach. So they said, okay, we need to provide a common way, a common tool chain for all our teams. And in the CDI service, we will maintain the DevOps tool chain. We will be in charge to automate all the boring tasks like provisioning of environment, monitoring, deprovisioning, measures, etc. And our role will be to increase the team collaboration. So here, each DevOps team is working with a same template structure, and so they have some basic common processes and tools, and then can share on how they use it, how they improve it, etc., etc. At this stage, you have your first big work to do, which is to pick some tools to use. And here it's the famous Pokemon dilemma. Which tools I should use in my company? So if you look at the DevOps tools landscape, there are a lot of tools. And here, my advice will be to start with mandatory criteria for all the tools. And they are pretty simple. A first criteria that any tools in a such DevOps as a service tool chain should respect is automation. You must have tools that can be automated in terms of configuration, in terms of deployment, of provisionment, and also that can be monitored. You need also flexible and universal tools. The main reason is that there are as many tools as there are people. There are as many use cases as there are projects and end users. And even if you provide templates, same tools for people, every project, every people will use it in their own way. you need also tools that can scale and that can scale up and scale out. That can scale up because in terms, for example, in for binary management, you will start with few projects generating some megabytes or gigs per day, and you will end, if everyone is adopting your toolchain, with terabytes of data generated per day. Do you have a solution that can store and manage terabytes of data generated every day? This is a question. You need also tools that can scale out, because you will start with few people adopting the tool chain. And if you are successful in your approach and your transformation, you will finish with the entire company using it. Last but not least, you need also stability and reliability. If using your tool chain, using the tools you are providing is a pain for the development teams, operational teams, or people in projects, they won't use it. That's like this. It's always the same. So with this list of criteria, you will be able to choose some tools. And here we have a screenshot provided by Orange Application for Business, which is a consulting company behind Orange. Thanks for them for sharing that with me. So they built at Orange the Forge as a Service team. So the Forge as a Service team is providing a set of tools to speed up project bootstrap. Basically, when you are starting a project as a project leader, you go on a dedicated portal where you have the choice between an open source ALM tool chain or Microsoft ALM tool chain. If you pick the open source one, you will have a dedicated Jira, a dedicated set of Git repository, Jenkins master with 2 slaves by default, a Squash environment, and dedicated space on a global Sonar Cube and a global Artifactory. Everything will be provisioned, configured for your team, for your developer, with all the permissions, etc., with just a few clicks. The main idea is that when you start to provide these tools, you will harmonize and standardize, but not centralize the tools that are used by your teams. You are just providing templates. They have pre-provisioned tools, but then they are the owner of the tools, and they still have the choice on what plugins they want to use within the tools, how they want to use the tools, etc. When you start to provide such a portal, such Forge as a service, then you start to be a service provider, which means that every project, every internal teams within the company become your customer. And your main objective should be to decrease or to eliminate every handoff you have between them and you, which means that if they need an additional Jenkins slave in their environment, they should be able to do it with a simple click. They should not have to open a Jira ticket that must be validated by their management, send it to your management, and ending with a Jira ticket for you in order to create a new environment with 10 manual tasks. This is a first good step, but as I said at Orange, and we discussed it in several meetings, the issue here is that if you only do that, you will only focus on the value stream, which means the stream from development to production. So you will focus on releasing fast, but you totally forget feedback. And remember, it was the first thing we realized with the waterfall model, is that we need quick feedback. So as a service provider, and because teams are your customer, you need to monitor and measure things. In the first step, it's not for them, but it's for you. You need to monitor and measure what is the usage in order to scale if needed, in order to see that, for example, it happened for Orange. They realized that many projects were provisioning tools like Jenkins, Sonar, Artifactory, but were not using it people were still building on their machine and pushing to production through SSH. So you need to monitor that and to see if people are provisioning and really using the tool you are providing. Also, you need to monitor when you need to deprovision tools. So if a project finished and there is no more people using a whole environment, you need to be able to detect it to deprovision the resources. This is the first step. But then when you start to monitor and to measure things, you can start also to analyze, to have some analysis on all the things that are done by all the projects in your company. You can start to give back some analysis to each project, but also to build a global business intelligence regarding your company. You can start to track which projects will not respect their milestones, their timeline, their roadmap. You can detect projects that are going very well, while another project based on the same technology with the same scope is going very bad. And you can start to enable the communication between those projects, simply saying, hey, you should have a discussion with this project. They are doing the same kind of thing, and it looks like it works pretty well for them. Or they have this issue, you should talk to them, etc. And the main idea is, as you are in a central place in the company and you have access to a lot of information, you will give back information, but you also can build a knowledge center to enable the share and the sharing of knowledge and the communication. Here, it's something very important. You have to always keep in mind that DevOps is a mindset, not a tool set. It's like the agile movement. It's all about mindset before tool set, which means what I mean here is that you need adoption. Even if you have the best tool chain in the world, you pick the best tools, you provide the best templates, the best pipeline, etc. for your end developers. They won't use it if they are not convinced about the benefits. And you cannot force people from outside. You cannot tell to someone that he should do something while you are not doing it on a daily basis. This is why you need advocates, because people trust their peer. I will always be more convinced by someone who had the same problematic and who solved it in his real life than by a manager who's telling me you should work like this because I saw it in a book or in a blog post. So this is not a final, but a great improvement, and this is what they did at ING Bank. I know there are other companies looking for that. I had this discussion with Enedis, for example, as a French company. The main idea here is, as a final step, is to build an internal community to look at what is going on the open source model, the open source community, and to try to build this kind of community within your company. The first step is to stop to centralize the knowledge. So to start to share it. So most of the time in company, in order to share the knowledge, but in fact to centralize it, we have a wiki or some documentation, central documentation on how to use tools, how to start a project, what are the process to follow in the company, etc. It's good, and we should still have this kind of central documentation. But also we should have ways to share directly between the teams, between peers. And if you look in the open source community, you can pick an internal Stack Overflow, for example, to allow team members not to consult central documentation, but to directly ask questions to their peers and to vote for answers, and then to gain some knowledge, to share their experience, their experiments, and also to build some internal advocates, because you will detect like this with such an internal community who are the people with the will to advocate, to change things. Then you should always, if you are in the DevOps as a service team, think that you need to have a bottom-up approach, which means that you need to provide templates, you need to provide tools, you need to maintain the tools, but you should be glad for any feature request and pull request regarding what you are providing. If people using the tools have the will to improve them, you should be happy for that. And this is how you will provide the best tools, by including changes that reflect the real use case of the end users of the tools. Let the team share what they do. This is what they do at ING. So at ING, if you, in your project, you write a small library, it's hosted in your internal project Git repository, you can make the choice to open source it, not to open source it on GitHub for the entire world, but to open source it within the company, to share it with the other projects, because what you did is interesting, and why not reusing it on other projects? And maybe you will have some pull requests, some feature requests on it in the future, and you will have a common library that will evolve within the company. Last point, enable self-service analytics. Here it's, for example, what they do at Facebook. They are not the only one, but here the approach is to provide dashboard and tools that will allow developers, operational people to implement their own analytics. And what you will provide is tool to consume and give some dashboards for good analytics. So you can imagine, for example, as a developer, I'm working on a new feature, and I know I can add a kind of log at the beginning of my feature just to measure how many customers, how many end users are going within to use my feature when it will be in prod. And another log will give me the number of how many people tried this feature and how many went to the entire workflow implemented within this feature. I will have two main benefits to it. The first one is, as soon as my feature will go to production, in 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, whatever, I'll know it. It will be in my personal dashboard. I will have information that this feature I implemented 2 weeks ago is now in production, is live and used by customer. And I will see the success of my feature, how people are using my feature. And this is a great benefit, because now you bring the developers, everyone in fact in the project, closest to the final goal, which is to provide a product to an end user. And you give more responsibility, more visibility to people. So to conclude on this webinar, I'll try to give you a small agenda on how and where to start such a transformation, So the first thing, it's not from me. I'm even not sure if it's from him, but Philippe Ansarguet used it in a slide he shared with me. It's from Orange. And start small, think big. This is very important and it's very smart. So you should, and it's what I said when you choose, you pick the tools, you should think big. What will happen when the entire company will use what you are doing now? But you have to start small, because it's a nonsense to start for the entire company. It will not work like this. You will start with few projects, and if you are successful, you will scale and improve. So start small, think big. Then the first thing to do is to select representative projects based on some criteria. First of all, the best thing to do is to find some people with the will to be advocates, with the will to change their way to work, to adopt this DevOps transformation, and then to share their experience with other teams. You have also to look for improvement goals. So if you know that in your company you have projects that need to release faster, there are projects that need to improve the quality, that you have projects that need to decrease the cost. Most of the time it's for all projects, but you should find at least one representative project for each improvement goal, each different improvement goal. And keep in mind that you won't be able to address all improvement goals for a single project, but you have to find one quantitative objective at least once per project to start with. When I say quantitative, it's a clear objective, well defined, that will be measurable and visible. And pick projects that has this quantitative objective is really important, because what you want to do is demonstrate the success of this transformation to then bring more projects in the transformation. Once you have those projects, you will be able to start to provide some standard templates, but it has to be templates because you must let them customize to fit their own use case and then own way to work. And of course, as I said, but I want to insist on it, don't forget feedback and to establish a blameless report culture within your company. The idea here is not to say you did it bad, but to say how we can improve and to measure what's going wrong, to constantly analyze bottlenecks in your pipeline and to be able to improve on a daily basis. So you need measure, you need analysis, and of course you need to share all those feedback. Once you're done and successful on few projects, you will share it with other projects. You will start to scale, taking other projects, and of course improve your process.